Hey everybody, Joe Joseph here for thedailysheeple.com, and this is your news shot. I'm going to go to CNBC. They're highlighting how at midnight the government shut down due to the Senate's inability to pass a funding extension. And so now about 25% of the government technically is shut down. 25%. So when you hear government shutdown, the first thing that you should say to yourself is, what does it really mean? And it really means about 25% of the government is shut down. You're talking about basically non-essential functions, like park rangers, national monuments get closed, the Smithsonian's closed, things like that. But on the whole, the majority of the government is open. Now, I will get into this in a minute as far as how government funding works. But even with a government shutdown, it would take a long time before it really starts getting ugly for civil servants out there. Now, don't get me wrong. Those 25% that are affected, I'd hate to be in their shoes right now. But I have to say that the majority of Americans that live in this country deal with a measure of instability when it comes to employment that civil servants don't normally or are not subjected to. And from time to time, as hard as it is, sometimes it's good to have a refresher. It's good to have to experience it for yourself to keep your focus. I would never encourage it, but I can say that prolonged comfort can do much more damage than a short-term funding gap. And I know because I experienced it myself. And it was very hard for me to make the transition from the public sector to the private sector. I made it, but it was tough. I'll get into this in a minute. It says, a House passed stopgap bill that would have avoided a government shutdown fizzled in the Senate on Friday night, just a couple hours ago, leaving Congress negotiating frantically. I'm sure that's what they're doing. They're just going crazy in the halls of Congress. Cats are sleeping with dogs. It's horrible. The measure failed in a procedural vote by 50 to 49, 5 Democrats, and 4 Republicans opposed the bill. Now, as nearly all Democrats and some Republicans opposed the measure that failed to work, lawmakers saw government funding lapse, at least temporarily. They see it as an issue, but again, it's Friday night. We got till Monday. Everything's good. Even President Trump says, hey, I'm not going to go down to my resort down in Florida. I'm going to stay up here to make sure it gets done. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that, Trump. That's awesome. Now, as the vote remained open in early Saturday morning, several bipartisan senators appeared to confer about a way forward. McConnell and Schumer then walked off the Senate floor together, holding hands, only to return and continue talks with other senators. Numerous senators crowded around Schumer as the clock hit midnight. Yeah, let's go hide behind our leader. I mean, these freaking nutless bastards, man. I tell you what, they've got no marbles to stand up for themselves. They cower in fear behind, their majority leader. I hate politicians. I just do. I mean, I'm sure some of them are very well-intentioned. Don't get me wrong. But on the whole, you've got to be a really shady, sneaky snake to be a politician. And I just, a lot of people wonder, why don't men and women of honor ever run for office? It's because they don't want to be caught dead around that place because of how corrupt and how bad it is and how much of a risk it would be for them to become corrupt if surrounded by a bunch of corrupt crooks and thieves and criminals. And that's what they are. So let's be totally and completely clear. We get vilified, raked over the coals for the smallest things by government and by law enforcement. And these people get away with literal murder. Literal murder. Their decisions have profound effects on the lives of millions of Americans, and they just don't care. Or at least they certainly don't show it. Oh, they care, As long as you come forward with a campaign contribution, that, my friends, is one way to get them to care. But outside of that, if you're just Joe Schmuckatelli and you need help, God forbid. God forbid. I went down that road too. Didn't get a whole hell of a lot for my non-representing representative. And he's one of the better ones, supposedly. So very interesting at that. Now, government shutdown, what does it mean? Well, the first thing that you have to understand is that in government, there are many colors of money. Money takes on different forms once it's been appropriated. Now, money has, once it's appropriated, has expiration dates set to it. So let's just say, for example, that I'm Department of Defense and I have procurement dollars for a new government program, right? Now, those procurement dollars might expire in 5 years. They were appropriated in 2017, we'll say, and they expire in 2022. That means that that pot of money that you possess is good and you have it in hand because it was appropriated in 2017 and it's good to 2022. So what happens? If you're a civil servant and you are in charge of managing money, you're going to spend the stuff that expires first. That's how you normally do it, right? A lot of project and program managers across all branches of government hold on to money that doesn't expire this fiscal year, maybe even next fiscal year. Now, this doesn't go for everybody. Everybody always scrapes and claws because it's never enough. But I can tell you that the majority of government programs out there are and do have funding that has been appropriated as long as it's not considered mission funding, which means, like, for example, the park services get their money appropriated for that year or for however long it happens that there's an appropriation, and that's it. That's what they get. Whereas, say, defense entities, will say, not only get money appropriated directly from the government, but they also get customer funds, meaning that, okay, here I am, I'm the Army, and I have MRAPs that need communication systems, and there is this entity over in DOD that specializes in communication systems. So we are going to send them money to install communication systems on our MRAPs. And by doing so, they get appropriated funding into their coffers to use that may not expire for a couple years. God only knows how long. It all depends. Every case is individual unto itself. So when you look at a government shutdown in totality, it would really take some time before it really starts to bite in to your services. The military's not affected, not right away. And even if it is, they have to continue to work and they'll be back paid once a budget impasse is resolved. However, how many people out there that you know of the mortgage companies and their understanding of things when you can't pay the mortgage? Yeah. Very seldomly, if ever, have I ever run into a company that's like, well, government shutdown, no problem. We'll just put your mortgage on hold until they figure it out. That's not how it works. So a lot of civil servants out there are going to feel the pinch. A lot of them are good people like you and me that are just trying to make ends meet, live, do whatever's best for their family, and try to live as good a life as they possibly can. However, there's probably about 5 times them that look at civil service as an entitlement and really don't give a crap because it ain't their money. I can't tell you how many times I ran into that attitude or to apathy because they could never get fired and because discipline was extremely difficult in the civil service ranks. It is a totally different bird in the private sector. Totally different beast. But this shutdown shouldn't scare anybody. If anything, this is what's supposed to happen when there is dysfunctionality within government. This is what's supposed to happen when you don't see eye to eye on things. You got to negotiate. Sometimes it can get nasty. But I can tell you that this government shutdown and others like it have been hyped in the past, and it takes months before you really start to feel the pinch, before you really start to feel that burn. I, for one, think that civil service needs to be overhauled, and overhauled in a drastic way. Ways that more resemble the private sector and more adhere to merit-based type of promotions and pay increases, vice just your standard run-of-the-mill, hey, you know what, here's 6%. You don't get 6% in the private sector as a raise every year. Now, of course, you go and see a lot of civil servants will say, wow, no, we haven't got pay raises, it's been a pay freeze and all this. No, that's a lie. That's a lie. There are 3 types of pay increases that a civil servant gets throughout the course of the year. They get the one that's appropriated by Congress to say, okay, well, you know what? We're going to give all federal employees a 2% pay increase. That means they're taking the G schedule and basically bumping it up by 2.1%. Okay. But if you're not at the top of your pay band, each year you can get a raise. And on top of that, you get your bonus. How many people out there know in the private sector of yearly bonuses? They are extremely rare now these days, as it used to be commonplace. But if you're a civil servant and you breathe and show up for work every day, then you can get a 5% increase every year and a pretty healthy bonus. So I got to tell you, on the one hand, it sucks. It sucks to have to endure a government shutdown or temporary loss of your job, no matter who it is. But when you go into civil service, you have to understand that that comes with the territory. And some branches of government are more susceptible to a government shutdown than not. And these are the risks that you have to understand when taking a civil service position. But I'm telling you right now, folks, this is certainly nothing to get crazy about, and understand that the vast majority of government services and government personnel will be reporting to work on Monday, just as they did on Friday. I'm Joe Joseph. This was thedailysheeple.com's News Shot. Feel free and comment below and visit our website at thedailysheeple.com. #WakeTheFlock Up. Have a great day, everybody.